Princess Lyra stepped off the transport ship and onto the human colony deck. Her skin shimmered with a faint blue color. Her eyes were large and bright. The other had laughed when the Galactic Council gave them this assignment. She was damaged goods. She could not have children, and now they were sending her to live with humans. Captain Daniel Foster stood waiting. He was tall with dark hair and a tired expression. He had been told 1 hour ago that a princess would be staying on his ship. He did not want this. His hands were full with running the research vessel Harmony. He did not have time to babysit an alien royal. The council had made this clear in their message. Lyra was being sent as a joke. The council members thought it was funny, an infertile princess living with inferior humans. It was an insult to both Lyra and to humans, but nobody had asked Foster what he thought. Nobody ever did. Lyra approached Foster with careful steps. She had been trained in diplomacy since birth. She knew how to be polite even when the world made her feel worthless. The council had sent her here because she was expendable. A broken was less important than trade deals and political games. "Captain Foster," Lyra said. Her voice was smooth like water. "I am here for the cultural exchange program." Foster nodded. He gestured for her to follow him. They walked through the corridors of the Harmony. The ship was clean and organized. Humans had done good work maintaining it. Foster showed Lyra to her quarters. It was a small room but comfortable. "You will stay here," Foster said. "Do not touch anything in the ship without permission. Do not go into restricted areas. Follow the schedule the crew will give you. Do you understand?" "Yes, Captain," Lyra said. Foster left her alone. He had other things to do. The ship had engine problems that needed his attention. The last thing he needed was to worry about keeping a princess entertained. Over the next few days, Foster tried to ignore Lyra, but she was different from what he expected. She did not demand special treatment. She did not complain about the small room or the simple food. She asked questions, many questions. She watched the crew work. She observed how they treated each other. She noticed things that Foster had never thought about. One day she found him in the command center. She asked him why his crew smiled at each other so much. Why did they help each other without being ordered to do so? "Because we are a team," Foster said. He was not sure why he was explaining this to her. "We depend on each other." "You value cooperation," Lyra said. "Among my people, we value strength and genetic perfection. Cooperation is seen as weakness." Foster looked at her. She seemed sad when she said this. He realized she was talking about herself. She was the one who was not perfect in her family's eyes. "Cooperation is not weakness," Foster said. "It is how humans survive. Earth was a harsh planet. We learned that we needed each other. That lesson never left us." Lyra listened to him. She began to ask more questions about human nature. She wanted to understand why humans seemed to care about those who were not the strongest. Foster found himself spending more time with her. He told her stories about Earth. He told her about his own family. He told her about his sister who had a learning disability and how the whole family loved her more because she needed their protection. One night, Lyra and Foster were in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Lyra said something that changed everything. "Your species is not inferior," she said. "The council is wrong." "That is good to hear," Foster said. He smiled a little. "Why do you say that?" "Because I have watched your crew for days. They are not strong like my people, but they are something else. They are connected. They choose to be together. They choose to help each other. My people are born connected to power, but we are never truly together. We are always competing, always trying to prove we are worthy." Foster realized that Lyra was one of the people he had ever met. She saw things that mattered. She understood that the Galactic Council had made a mistake in sending her here. The joke was not on her. The joke was on the Council. They did not understand what true strength was. "I want to show you something," Foster said. He took Lyra to the medical bay. His crew member, a young man named David, was there with a wound on his arm. David had been injured while fixing an external panel. Foster sat with David while the medical officer cleaned and bandaged the wound. The whole crew took turns checking on David to make sure he was okay. Foster explained that this was how humans worked. Injury to one was injury to all. Loss of one was loss to all. Lyra watched this with wide eyes. Among an injured member was often left behind if they slowed the group down. But here, humans stopped everything to care for one injured person. "This is what I was missing," Lyra whispered. "This is what my people do not have." Foster made a decision in that moment. He would treat Lyra with the respect she deserved, not as a princess who had been sent as a joke, but as a person who deserved to be valued. He would show her that humans understood something important about the galaxy. "From now on, you are part of this crew," Foster said. "We take care of our own." Lyra looked at him. Her large eyes seemed to shine. For the first time since she had arrived, she smiled. It was a real smile, not a diplomatic smile, not a polite smile, a real smile of relief and hope. The Galactic Council had sent Lyra to the Harmony as a punishment. They had meant it as an insult, but Captain Daniel Foster had just made a choice that would change everything. He had decided that a person's value was not measured by their ability to have children. It was measured by who they were inside. And Princess Lyra was valuable, very valuable indeed. 3 months had passed since Lyra joined the crew of the Harmony. She was no longer just a visitor. She had become part of the team. She wore the same uniform as the others. She ate her meals in the crew hall. She worked with them every day. Captain Foster had given her a job. She was now the cultural observer and science specialist. Her job was to study and record information about different species and planets they visited. She was good at this work. Her mind could process large amounts of information very quickly. The crew had learned to respect her. She did not complain about hard work. She did not demand special treatment even though she was a princess. She helped with repairs and cleaning just like everyone else. She was honest and kind. One afternoon, the sensors picked up a distress signal. It was coming from a small colony planet in Sector 7. Captain Foster gathered his team together. They needed to go and help whoever was in trouble. The landing team included Foster, Lyra, and 3 other crew members. They descended to the planet in a small shuttle. The colony was silent and empty. Buildings were destroyed. There was evidence of weapons fire and violence. Then they heard it, a small sound, almost like crying. They found the child in the ruins of what had been a community building. The child was small with pale green skin and features that did not match any single species. It was a hybrid. Both of its biological species had destroyed this colony in their war. The child was alone. Its family was gone. The child was afraid. It backed away from the landing team. It had learned not to trust. Both sides of its family had shown it pain. Lyra stepped forward slowly. She did not make any sudden movements. She knelt down so her face was level with the child's face. She did not speak right away. She just sat there, looking at the child with kindness. "I am like you," Lyra said in a soft voice. "I do not fit where I came from. I do not belong to my people the way they wanted me to belong. So I understand how alone you must feel." The child looked at her. Something in Lyra's words reached the small creature. The child did not run away. Instead, it came closer. Lyra held out her hand. The child took it. Foster watched this happen and felt something shift in his chest. He realized that Lyra had found something here that she had been searching for all her life. A reason to live that was not about her bloodline or her ability to have children. She was protecting someone who needed her. This was real. This was true. The team brought the child back to the Harmony. Foster found medical supplies to help it. The child was sick from fear and hunger and loneliness. But with care from the crew, especially from Lyra, the child began to heal. Every day, Lyra spent hours with the child. She taught it things. She told it stories. She held it when it had nightmares. She made sure it knew it was safe and wanted and loved. One night, Foster found Lyra in the child's quarters. The child was sleeping. Lyra was sitting beside the small bed just watching the child breathe. "Why do you care so much?" Foster asked. Lyra did not answer right away. She looked at the sleeping child. When she finally spoke, her voice was very quiet. "My people taught me that infertility means I am nothing, that I will never have purpose, that I am broken and should have been left behind. But this child does not care about any of that. This child loves me because I show up, because I care, because I make the effort to understand its pain." She paused. She wiped something from her eye. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I am not broken," Lyra said. "I feel like a mother, not because of biology, but because of choice. I chose to protect this child. I chose to love it. And that choice matters more than anything my people could have given me." Foster sat down beside her. He felt the weight of her words. He understood what she was saying. She was discovering that motherhood was not about genetics. It was about love and commitment and the choice to care for someone else more than yourself. "Thank you," Lyra said to Foster. "Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for treating me like a person instead of a failure." "You were never a failure," Foster said. "The people who could not see your value were the failures, not you." Days became weeks. The child healed completely. It learned to smile and play. It attached itself to Lyra but also to Foster and the whole crew. Everyone on the ship loved the child. Everyone wanted to protect it. But there was something else growing too. Something between Lyra and Foster that was not just friendship. They spent more time together. They talked about their hopes and fears. Foster told Lyra about his dreams of finding a place where different species could live in peace. Lyra told Foster about her dreams of being valued for who she was, not what she could produce. One evening, in the observation deck, Foster took Lyra's hand. She did not pull away. She looked at their joined hands and then at his face. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope for something that culture said was impossible. She allowed herself to hope for love with a human. She allowed herself to imagine a future that was different from what her people had planned for her. "I never thought I would feel this way," Lyra said. "My people say that humans are primitive, that we should not mix, that it is wrong." "What do you think?" Foster asked. Lyra squeezed his hand. She was not sure what would happen next. She was not sure if the galaxy would accept them. But she was sure about one thing. She was sure about her heart. And her heart was telling her to trust this human who had shown her what it meant to truly belong. "I think," Lyra said, "that I love you." Lyra realized something was wrong 3 months after she and Foster had become close. She was experiencing physical changes that a should not experience. Her body felt different. She felt tired in the mornings. She had strange food cravings. She was confused. She went to Doctor, the ship's medical officer. He ran tests on her. He looked at the results with shock. He ran the tests again. Then he called Foster to come to the medical bay. "I do not understand," Lyra said. She was scared. "My people told me I could never have children. They said it was biological. They said it was permanent." Doctor showed them the scans. He showed them the genetic markers. He showed them the impossible proof. "You are pregnant," Doctor said. "The child is healthy. The genetics show that you and Captain Foster are the biological parents. But here is what is extraordinary. Your body is reacting to the pregnancy by healing itself. The infertility condition you had since birth is revering. It is like the human genetic material is triggering something that was dormant in your DNA." Foster could not speak. Lyra could not move. They stared at the data on the screen. What the Galactic Council had said was impossible had happened. A human and it could have a child together. And somehow this was healing what they had called a permanent wound. "What happens now?" Lyra asked. Her voice was shaking. Doctor looked uncomfortable. "I have to report this to the Galactic Council. It is a major discovery. It changes everything we understand about species compatibility." Within hours, a message came through from the Council. It was harsh and cold. The message ordered the pregnancy to be terminated immediately. The council called the child an abomination. They said that mixing species bloodlines was forbidden. They said it was dangerous. They said it went against the natural order. Foster read the message and felt rage rise up inside him. How could they order him to destroy his own child? How could they tell Lyra that the child she was carrying was evil? These were his people's rules. The human government had never agreed to follow law, but Foster knew the council had power. They had influence across the galaxy. He called an emergency meeting of the crew. He showed them the message. He told them that the council wanted him to kill the child. He told them he would not do it. He asked them if they would stand with him or stand against him. The crew was silent for a long moment. Then David, the young man Lyra had cared for when he was injured, stood up. He said he would stand with Foster. Then another crew member stood. Then another. Then all of them. They would stand against the council. They would protect Foster and Lyra and the child. But standing against the council was dangerous. Foster knew this. He was an officer in the human military. He was breaking orders. He would face court-martial. He would lose his rank. He might face prison time. But he looked at Lyra and he knew he could not hand over his child to be destroyed. Over the next days, Foster and his crew prepared for what was coming. They gathered supplies. They plotted a course to a remote region of space. They disabled certain systems on the ship so the council could not track them as easily. Lyra grew stronger as the days passed. Her body was changing in ways that amazed Doctor. Her biology was transforming. She was becoming something new, not fully anymore, not human either, something in between, something completely new. One night, Foster held her and she told him her fear. "What if they find us?" she asked. "What if they take our child away from us?" "They will not," Foster said. He did not know if this was true, but he said it anyway because she needed to believe it. "I will protect you both, no matter what happens." A message came through the communication system. It was from the Galactic Council directly. The message said that the Harmony was to report to a council station for inspection. It was not a request. It was an order. Foster made his choice. He told his crew to prepare for jump to hyperspace. They would run. They would run to the outer colonies where council power was weak. They would find humans who would help them. They would find sympathetic alien species who believed that what was happening between Lyra and Foster was beautiful, not wrong. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Lyra felt the child move inside her for the first time. It was a gentle kick, a reminder that there was life inside her, a life that had already changed everything. A life that the council wanted destroyed but that Foster and his crew had chosen to protect. The Harmony sailed into the unknown with a human captain, a princess, a hybrid child growing inside her, and a crew that had chosen loyalty to their captain over obedience to authority. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity once again. They had not expected a single human to value his child more than his career. They had not expected a human crew to follow their captain into exile. They had not expected that something the council called an abomination would actually be a sign of hope for a galaxy that was growing tired of division. The chase had begun, and no one knew how it would end. The Harmony was not alone in its rebellion. When word spread across the galaxy that a human captain had the Galactic Council to protect a hybrid child, something unexpected happened. Other humans began to help. At first, it was small things. A human colony on station provided fuel and supplies with no questions asked. They did not care about council orders. They saw a captain protecting his family, and they respected that. Another colony offered shelter and medical help. A third colony gave them information about where council patrol ships would be. Foster realized that humans across the galaxy were choosing to stand with him. They were breaking council laws. They were risking punishment. But they did it anyway because they believed in something larger than themselves. They believed that protecting the innocent was more important than following unjust orders. Lyra watched this unfold with amazement. She began to understand something that her education had never taught her. Humans were not organized by hierarchy like her people were. Humans organized themselves by choice. They chose to help. They chose to resist. They chose to build communities based on shared values instead of bloodline. A human named George became their most important ally. He was old and retired from the colonial service. He had spent 50 years trying to negotiate with the Galactic Council. He had failed many times. He had learned that the Council would never see humans as equals unless something forced them to. George brought Foster and his crew to a secret meeting place on a planet called Haven. There they met other species that were also tired of Council control. There were who believed in cooperation. There were merchants who wanted free trade, not Council regulation. There were even some who disagreed with the Council's orders. George introduced Foster and Lyra to the underground network. These were people who did not accept Council authority. They helped refugees escape. They shared resources. They built communities where different species lived together as equals. "Your species is remarkable," George said to Lyra one day. They were sitting in his small house on Haven. "You humans have a quality that we do not see much in the galaxy. You care about individuals. You will sacrifice power and position for what you believe is right." "I thought humans were primitive," Lyra said. "That is what the Council always said." George laughed. It was a sad laugh. "The Council confuses technology with wisdom. Yes, humans are younger than some species. Yes, we do not have the same weapons or military power. But we understand something that more advanced species have forgotten. We understand that strength comes from connection, from loyalty, from choosing to stand with each other even when it costs everything." George decided to help Foster and Lyra in a dangerous way. He would use his old connections in the colonial government to spread information about what was happening. He would tell the truth about the Council's attempt to destroy the hybrid child. He would show the galaxy that the Council was not just and not powerful. They were afraid. When Council enforcement ships came to Haven, George did something that Lyra would never forget. He stood on the landing platform alone. He did not run. He did not hide. He simply stood there and spoke truth to the Council officers. "I am an old man," George said. "I have lived a long life. I have seen what the Council is. You are afraid. You are afraid of change. You are afraid of humans and working together because you know it will make you weaker, not stronger. You are afraid of a hybrid child because she represents everything you cannot control." The Council officers ordered him to step aside. George refused. He told them that he would not let them pass. He said that one old human man could not stop a ship, but his choice to resist would matter more than their weapons. The officers shot him. George fell to the ground, but in the few seconds before his death, he managed to transmit one final message across all communication channels. He told the galaxy what was happening. He named the Council members who had made the orders. He said that humans would no longer accept being treated as inferior. His death was not in vain. The broadcast spread across the galaxy. It reached human military stations. It reached sympathetic alien species. It reached even the younger members of the Galactic Council who were tired of the old ways. Foster and his crew escaped during the chaos that followed George's death, but Lyra could not forget what she had seen. A single human, an old man with no weapons and no power, had stood against the Council and had won, not through force, through courage, through refusing to accept injustice. "That is what my people do not have," Lyra told Foster that night. They were running again, heading to the next safe colony. "We have power and technology and long lives, but we do not have the courage to stand for what we believe when it costs us everything." George had nothing, and yet he changed everything. Other humans began to join their cause. Military officers who disagreed with Council authority offered their ships. Scientists who understood the importance of the hybrid child offered their knowledge. Communities across human space opened their doors. The Galactic Council found themselves facing something they had not expected, a rebellion, but not a rebellion with weapons and force, a rebellion of people choosing to help, of communities choosing to protect the innocent, of a species that understood that true power was not about domination, it was about standing together for what was right. And at the center of it all was a pregnant princess learning what it meant to belong, learning what it meant to have people choose to protect her not because she was royalty or powerful, but because she was worth protecting, because her child was worth protecting, because what she represented was hope for a galaxy that was learning to change. Hope was born in the medical bay of the Harmony while the ship was traveling through hidden space routes. She came into the galaxy perfect and whole. She had her mother's large, bright eyes and her father's dark hair. She was beautiful and healthy and alive. She was human and in something entirely new. When Foster held his daughter for the first time, he wept. Lyra watched him and smiled. Her body had completed the pregnancy without complication. Doctors said that Lyra had fully healed from her infertility. She was no longer broken. She was transformed. Carrying a human child had awakened something in her biology that doctors had said would never wake. The birth of Hope created shock waves across the galaxy. Images of the hybrid child spread through communication networks. Scientists began to study the data. What had happened to Lyra was not a biological mistake. It was evolution. Two different species had successfully created life together. It proved that isolation and separation were lies. It proved that connection was possible. The Galactic Council tried to suppress the information. They called it propaganda. They said it was lies designed to undermine their authority. But it was too late. The truth was spreading too fast. Too many people had seen the images. Too many species wanted to know more. Within the Empire, young members began to question their leaders. They looked at Hope and saw not an abomination but a miracle. They began to ask why their people refused to work with other species. They began to believe that there was more to life than genetic purity and hierarchical power. Other hybrid children were born, and a human had a daughter, too, and a human had a son. The galaxy was changing. Slowly but certainly, the walls that the council had built were crumbling. Foster was contacted by sympathetic officers in the human military command. They told him he would not be punished. Instead, he was offered a new position. They wanted him to lead a diplomatic corps. They wanted him to work on building peace between species. They wanted him to use his experience to teach other humans and aliens how to work together. Foster accepted the position. He brought Lyra and Hope with him. He brought his crew. He brought the hybrid child that they had found on the colony planet. They all went together to a new diplomatic station orbiting the planet Harmony Prime. The station was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Humans and worked side by side. Merchants set up trading posts, ran research laboratories. Different species ate together. They learned each other's languages. They understood each other's cultures. Lyra became the official liaison between the Empire and the human coalition. She was no longer seen as broken or worthless. She was seen as a bridge between worlds. Young came to learn from her. She taught them that strength was not about perfection. Strength was about growth. It was about being brave enough to change. Hope grew up surrounded by different species. She did not see them as alien or other. They were her family. She had human friends and cousins and mentors. She learned to think in multiple ways. She understood the galaxy from different perspectives. One day, when Hope was old enough to understand, Foster told her the story of how she came to be. He told her about how her mother had been sent as a joke, how her parents had fallen in love despite a galaxy telling them it was wrong, how her birth had changed everything. "You were supposed to be erased," Foster told his daughter. "The council wanted to destroy you before you were even born, but we believed you deserved to live. We believed your life mattered, and you proved us right." Hope looked at her father and then at her mother. Lyra smiled with the kind of joy that only a mother who had been told she could never be a mother could feel. "I do not feel special," Hope said. "I am just me." "That is exactly right," Lyra said. She pulled her daughter close. "You are just you, but who you are has changed the galaxy, not because of your power or your genetics, but because you exist, because we chose to protect you, because humans chose to love each other." Years passed. The Galactic Council lost power. A new system of galactic governance was built. Species had representation based on their population and their choices, not on how much military power they held. Humans took their place as equals, not inferiors, learned to value cooperation as much as they valued strength. Hybrid children grew up across the galaxy. Some chose to be explorers. Some became scientists. Some became artists and builders. Some became teachers. They were living proof that the old ways of separation and hierarchy were lies. Foster stood in the observation deck of the diplomatic station with Lyra beside him. Hope was in the station school. The hybrid child they had found on the colony planet was now a translator helping other mixed-species families understand each other. "Do you regret it?" Foster asked Lyra. "Defying your people, giving up your place as a princess?" Lyra took his hand. She looked out at the galaxy spreading before them. Ships from 100 different species traveled freely. Stations bustled with life and cooperation. There were still conflicts. There was still work to do, but the galaxy was changing. "I regret nothing," Lyra said. "My people told me I was worthless because I could not have children, but they were wrong. My worth was not in my genetics. My worth was in my choices. I chose to love you. I chose to protect our child. I chose to believe that the galaxy could be better than what the Council said it had to be." She smiled, and I was right. Foster put his arm around her, and together they watched the new galaxy being born. A galaxy where an infertile alien princess could become a mother, where humans could work together as equals, where strength came not from dominance, but from the courage to change, where the smallest act of kindness could echo across worlds and transform everything.